absolutely delighted, and it's such a pleasure to have with us today a true hero of the Republic. Mike Davis is the founder of the Article 3 Project, which you can find on the web at article3project.org. Please go check them out and support them however you can, because they are right there on the front lines of protecting the rule of law from all of this Republic-ending lawfare. You can find them on X at Article 3. Again, that's the number 3, Article 3 Project. And Mike himself on X is at MRDDMIA. So follow him right now. Mike, welcome. It's so good to have you here.
Thank you very much for having me, Monica.
Well, it's a pleasure, and we've got a lot of ground to cover. I know today that you are at the Supreme Court. We're going to deal with that in just a second, but I want to start with the Stalinesque show trial of President Trump in downtown Manhattan. Can you give us sort of a thumbnail sketch of where we are in this right now?
Yeah, you have this Soros-funded Manhattan DA, Alvin Bragg, bringing the first indictment ever against a former president, and he did it when that former president looked like he was going to run for president again. So you have the former president and the leading presidential candidate. They're using a bogus legal theory, a bogus bookkeeping misdemeanor legal theory. It's not even a bookkeeping misdemeanor, but they're trying to transform what are at best time-barred bookkeeping misdemeanors from 2017 and transform them into 34 felony counts against President Trump. And they're doing this after Matthew Colangelo got deployed from the number 3 office in the Biden Justice Department, a very senior political appointee in the Biden Justice Department, to resurrect this zombie case that the prior Manhattan DA, Cy Vance, the Manhattan U.S. Attorney, the Federal Election Commission, and Bragg himself declined to prosecute. This is obviously part of the Democrats' lawfare and election interference campaign, Biden's lawfare and election interference campaign. They're in front of this Manhattan Democrat Judge Juan Merchan. This Judge Juan Merchan donated to Biden in 2020 and another anti-Trump group, and his adult daughter, more importantly, Lauren Merchan, has raised $100 million from her father's unprecedented criminal trial over which he is presiding. And so that is a clear conflict of interest under New York statute. Even a former federal judge, a former Clinton federal judge from the Southern District of New York, went on Caitlin Collins' show on CNN and I think stunned everyone when she said that Judge Juan Merchan absolutely has to recuse under New York statute. He's refused to do it. And look, the whole point is they don't care if these Democrat operatives don't care if they ultimately get reversed on appeal. Their job is, they have one job. Their job is to label President Trump a felon before November 5th, 2024, because they know that's just about the only way that they think that they can resurrect President Biden's dead body and drag him over the finish line.
You know, this is a really important point. Well, two. One, this is all politically driven. This is no basis in the law. None of these cases have any basis in the law. And then number two is that communists do whatever they want. And your point, Mike, is a point that I've been making here and elsewhere. And I started making it when I saw the Colorado Supreme Court boot him off the ballot. Now, that was overturned by the U.S. Supreme Court. But to your point, these communists do not care if they're overturned. It used to be that lawyers, prosecutors, the DOJ, Supreme Courts in various states, the U.S. Supreme Court, they would actually spend a lot of time thinking through their decisions before issuing them, because they used to think about the law, the rule of law, and they would think about their legacies. Do I really want to be overturned here because this is so blatantly political? Maybe not. I'm concerned about my legacy and what kind of precedent this might set. These communists have no such concerns, because communists are all about destruction and they simply don't care. So all of these people across the country prosecuting these cases, these judges, they simply don't care. What does that mean? Not just for Donald Trump, Mike, but what does that mean for the rule of law in America?
Well, I would say this: if they can indict a former and likely future president, a billionaire 4 times, if they can try to bankrupt him for non-fraud, if they can try to destroy him for defamation when he didn't commit defamation, if they can just try to throw him off the ballot when they don't like him, in the name of trying to save democracy, they claim, just imagine what they can do to the rest of us, right? We are sitting ducks. President Trump is simply in their way. If they can do this to him, they're already doing this. They're going after not only are they going after Trump, they're going after his top aides. They're going after his lawyers. They're going after January 6th defendants. Old ladies who trespassed and took selfies on January 6th. They're going after parents outraged by gender chaos in schools and the resulting rapes in high school bathrooms. They're going after Christians praying outside of abortion clinics while they give amnesty to Joe Biden and Hunter Biden and James Biden and every scumbag Biden family member who's taken over $20 million in foreign corruption. They're giving amnesty to the much more deadly and dangerous BLM and Antifa rioters. They're giving an amnesty to the Hamas rioters, to the abortion industry activists, to the trans terrorists who are terrorizing Catholic churches and crisis pregnancy centers. We have a politicized and weaponized justice system that started under Obama. It's on steroids under Biden, and these are republic-ending tactics. This is how the Roman Republic fell. It was the lawfare against Caesar that made him feel desperate, and he crossed the Rubicon from Gaul into Rome, which led to the fall of the Roman Republic. And I'm not saying that America is going into civil war over this, but it's going to lead to a legal tit for tat between the parties that will destroy the presidency and will destroy our country.
Yeah, no, you are exactly right. And of course, for the communists, that's the point, Mike. The point is to destroy the country. We are in a war for the future of America. The country is hanging by a thread. We're in this war, but only one side is truly fighting it, them. And you, of course, on our side, but you're few and far between, and we're so grateful for you. But where is our side on all of this? For example, yesterday, Speaker Mike Johnson came to New York City to speak with Jewish students at Columbia. Very grateful that he did that, but he did not jump in a cab and go downtown to give President Trump any kind of moral and political support. Where is our side on this? I mean, where is Jim Jordan? I know our friend Steve Bannon has been railing on Jordan. Like, where is our side that actually has some tools? We still have a very slim majority, but it's still a majority in the House. Where are our people who actually have the legal and political tools to fight back? Where are they? They're AWOL.
And that's the problem. I've been calling for House Republicans to step up since the Mar-a-Lago raid 21 months ago. They should have been doing aggressive oversight with subpoenas, constant subpoenas, not just performative subpoenas that get ignored and nothing happens. They should be holding these hearings. They should be cutting off appropriations to this lawfare. The Article 3 project proposed appropriations riders that Congressman Andrew Clyde from Georgia championed, and so we're very grateful to him. And there were 2 appropriations riders that would have ended this election interference and lawfare. It's simply this: no federal funds can go to any prosecution of a major presidential candidate on or before November 5th, 2024. And number 2, any state or local government that prosecutes a major presidential candidate on or before November 5th, 2024 loses all federal funding. Look, these Democrats waited 30 months to bring these unprecedented criminal indictments against a former president. And the only reason they brought these indictments is because they knew that Trump was running for re-election. This is obviously lawfare and election interference. And House Republicans have sat on their hands and done almost nothing for 21 months. And now we just see that Arizona just yesterday indicted Trump's White House chief of staff, several of his lawyers, several of his other supporters. They even said that Trump is an unindicted co-conspirator which means that there's a very good chance that this Democrat attorney general down in Arizona could bring the indictment again, right? Indict Trump down the road, right? It's just maddening what they're doing with this lawfare and election interference. And this again, these are Republic-ending tactics. This needs to stop, and House Republicans need to stop it.
You know, what is the recourse here? I mean, you mentioned what Republicans in Congress could do, but they clearly haven't, and it's clear that they won't. But what is the recourse for President Trump? What is the recourse for the average American citizen who sees this deep corruption? You got a gag order slapped on Donald Trump from this corrupt judge, violating his First Amendment constitutional rights, completely outrageous. You've got this judge, but all of the judges in these cases are totally left-wing and biased. They're conflicted out all over the place. Who prosecutes the prosecutors? What kind of recourse do any of these defendants have?
Yeah, that's a very good question, Monica. And I think that what needs to happen is the state AGs can step up. There are Republican district attorneys can step up. But what needs to happen is when Trump is back in the White House, his Trump 47 Justice Department must open a criminal probe on this obvious criminal conspiracy by these Democrat prosecutors, these Democrat judges, these Democrat witnesses, these Democrat operatives who are clearly colluding and running a lawfare campaign. And it is a violation of President Trump and Walt Nauta and 18 co-defendants in Georgia, and now the co-defendants in Arizona. This is a clear, obvious criminal conspiracy to violate their civil rights for the purpose of interfering in the presidential election, and this is just not acceptable. And there needs to be severe legal, political, and financial consequences to this, so this never happens again.
You have been talking a long time about accountability for their crimes. President Trump has done nothing wrong in any of these fraudulent cases. They are the ones committing the crimes. And you have said when President Trump is reelected, there does need to be this kind of accountability. You are likely to play a very pivotal role, Mike, and we look forward to that, probably as acting attorney general or viceroy of Washington, D.C. I cannot wait for that, for you to bring justice to these criminals. Speaking of criminals, you've been talking now about a criminal conspiracy, many criminal conspiracies against Donald Trump and the larger America First movement. Special Counsel Jack Smith, Fani Willis in Georgia, Alvin Bragg in New York City, they've all created these Orwellian, sham, Stalin-esque cases against Trump. We now know, thanks to the judge in Florida on the classified documents case, Eileen Cannon, she has redacted a bunch of material that Jack Smith, Merrick Garland, Joe Biden wanted kept redacted. She has released all of this, and what it proves is this actual collusion, not the fake collusion that they stuck on Trump, but actual collusion between the DOJ, the FBI, and all of these legal actors around the country. Can you address that? I mean, this is completely outrageous and tearing of the Constitution. How do we deal with this right now before Trump is reelected?
This is on the Mar-a-Lago raid, and I've been saying since day one, 21 months ago, when I was one of the few people out there, maybe the only lawyer out there defending Trump after the Mar-a-Lago raid. I think people need to understand that this was a complete setup by the Biden administration against President Trump. And that the reason they ran this Mar-a-Lago raid, and it's clearly a setup at the Biden White House, the reason they ran this Mar-a-Lago raid is President Trump declassified via presidential memo on January 19th, 2021, the Crossfire hurricane records. And those are so damning. This is the Russian collusion hoax. This is so damning to Hillary, to Biden, to Obama, to Clapper, to so many people in the administration. What they did is that Hillary Clinton had her illegal home server as Secretary of State with our nation's most classified secrets. And it also evidenced her illegal pay-for-play schemes, including foreign corruption with the Clinton Foundation. And so that home server, illegal home server, almost certainly got hacked by the Russians and maybe the Chinese. And I think the Clinton campaign, the Obama White House, they were fearful that the Russians were going to release that hacked material before the 2016 campaign and showing her obvious corruption, right? And then all these foreign secrets that, this material that she had on her computer, on her home server, that she destroyed. Remember, she thought she destroyed it with hammers and a bleach bit. And guess what? The Russians almost certainly hacked it, had a copy. And so what they did is they made up the Russian collusion folks. They ran the crossfire. They said essentially they wanted to on President Trump's campaign, Donald Trump's campaign. They even spied on him as the president of the United States. They got fake FISA warrants to spy on him, or fraudulent FISA warrants. They went with fraudulent evidence to the FISA court. They did the Steele dossier. And the whole point of this was if this hacked material came out, the intel community, the FBI could come out and say that the Justice Department can come out and say this is part of the campaign dirty trick between the Trump campaign and the Russians, right? And so they could say it was it was Trump who was the one who was at fault, not Hillary Clinton. He's the bad guy, not Hillary. And you say, oh, that sounds crazy, Mike. How can you possibly think that? Well, they ran the same play again in 2020 with Hunter Biden's laptop, right? Remember the laptop with all the Biden foreign corruption? When that laptop came out, they censored the New York Post. They had the 51 former intel officials come out, working with the CIA, come out and say that it had all the hallmarks of a Russian disinformation campaign. They censored the New York Post, America's oldest newspaper. They took the link of the news story off the internet, and they shut down anyone who shared the story. So that shows you how serious they are. And so guess what? They think that President Trump still has those Crossfire hurricane records, and that's why they ran the Mar-a-Lago raid. They're trying to get back these records because they're so damning. So that's a big driver of this lawfare and election interference against Trump, because they fear that if Trump releases those records, either in a civil lawsuit that got kicked in Florida, that was the impetus. There was a civil lawsuit from Trump against Hillary over Russian collusion. It was down before Magistrate Judge Bruce Reinhart. They found Bruce Reinhart's post where he's trashing Trump on Facebook, so he recused. 6 weeks later, that recusal issue, that conflict of interest, somehow magically disappeared when he worked with the Biden Justice Department, with Jay Bratt and the Biden Justice Department, to authorize the unprecedented, unnecessary, and unlawful raid on the office of former president in Mar-a-Lago for presidential records Trump was allowed to have under the Presidential Records Act. The whole point of that raid was to get back the Crossfire hurricane records.
The corruption runs so deep, Mike, and we're going to need you as acting AG to uproot all of this rot. My view is you've got to raise these institutions to the ground. I really don't think that they can be reformed. That's a conversation for us for another day. I know you're outside the Supreme Court for this presidential immunity case, and I want to let you go back into the Supreme Court to cover that. But can you just give us an overview of what we can expect in those arguments today?
This is one of the most important cases that the Supreme Court of the United States will ever hear, because it is about this, whether the president of the United States, any president of the United States, is immune from criminal prosecution for his official acts, not his personal acts, his official acts. Members of Congress are immune from criminal prosecution for their official acts. So are federal judges. Why the hell would the president of the United States not be? And the reason this has not been decided yet is because until now, a former president has never been charged. Until Biden brought this lawfare against Trump, a former president has never, ever been charged. And so this is a monumental case. If I suspect the Supreme Court is going to hold that the president is immune from criminal prosecution for his official acts, because if not, we're going to destroy the presidency. We're going to destroy the country. And I'll tell you how. If President Trump is not immune from from criminal prosecution for his official acts, does that mean the Trump 47 Justice Department can indict President Obama for his drone strike, extrajudicial drone strike on 2 American citizens, including a minor? Does that mean that the Trump 47 Justice Department can charge him with capital murder? Does that mean the Trump 47 Justice Department can charge now Judge David Barron on the First Circuit Court of Appeals, who was Obama's legal advisor at the time for that same capital murder. Does that mean the Trump 47 Justice Department can charge President Biden for his illegal mass parole of 10 million unvetted illegal immigrants into our country and the resulting crimes that occur? Does that mean the Trump 47 Justice Department can indict President Bush 43 and Vice President Cheney and their advisors for their reckless, at best, reliance on faulty intel that led to the Iraq War and hundreds of thousands of deaths? This is why I say this is one of the most important decisions this Supreme Court will ever make, because if they make the wrong decision, it's going to destroy our presidency and therefore destroy our country.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And listen, the Supreme Court is also hanging by a thread. It's our last line of defense, Mike, as you often point out, but it is also hanging by a thread here. Final question for you on this presidential immunity case. It will have consequences more broadly for the country, obviously for all former presidents, for Donald Trump as well. But what are the consequences for the January 6th defendants that have been prosecuted sort of under this larger legal rubric?
Yeah, that's what's happened to these January 6th defendants it's just unacceptable. It's un-American. It's disgusting how our Biden Justice Department, look, President Trump is a former president. He's a likely future president. He's a billionaire. It's not right what they're doing to Trump, but he actually, if anyone can get through it, it's Trump. He has the resources. These January 6th defendants are just real Americans in real America. And look, what's happened on January 6th is disgusting. What happened on January 6th was a lawful protest permitted by the National Park Service that got out of hand and turned into a riot. And there are three categories of people who were there on January 6th. There were the people who were there peacefully and didn't trespass. And even if you don't like their message, even if you think that even if you hate them as an American for some reason, they have an absolute First Amendment right to be there. The second category are the people who trespass, and they should be charged with trespass. And the third category are the people who are violent, and those people should be treated more harshly. But you can't lump them all together and label them as insurrectionists. How many insurrectionists go unarmed into a nation's capital, take selfies, walk through velvet robes, follow police direction, and then walk out and not burn down the damn place? It was a riot. It was not an insurrection. You can't lump everyone together as insurrectionists and treat them severely, especially when you give amnesty to your much more deadly and destructive BLM and Antifa and Hamas rioters, right? And that is what is so wrong. The BLM riots caused like $2 billion in damage and dozens of deaths, and those were mostly peaceful, according to the same people who call grandmas who trespassed and took selfies insurrectionists.
So the Supreme Court ruling on this, which could come relatively soon, could actually significantly impair Jack Smith's case against Donald Trump and eliminate most, if not all, of the charges for many of these J6 defendants, right?
Yeah, so Jack Smith, the Biden Justice Department, has weaponized a post-Enron obstruction statute that was used for corporate obstruction, like destroying documents, or if there's a corporate investigation when corporations obstruct justice. And they have contorted that law and deployed it, weaponized it, politicized it, and weaponized it against the January 6th defendants. And Jack Smith used it for 2 of his 4 felony charges against Trump for January 6th, right? And again, the Supreme Court's almost certainly going to reverse that. And many of these January 6th defendants who have these very harsh sentences, they're going to get reversed. These lower court judges are already publicly scheming that they're still going to punish the defendants anyway. They're still going to find ways to keep them in prison as long as they can anyway. They're still going to punish them for raising this appeal, which is just unacceptable. That's what I mean by a criminal conspiracy to violate civil rights. When you punish criminal defendants for exercising their constitutional and statutory rights, then you're committing a crime, right? So I hope these judges understand how serious I am about the Trump 47 Justice Department investigating what the Biden Justice Department and these Democrat judges across the country, like Tish James and Fannie Willis and Alvin Bragg and, the Judge Cannon in D.C., and, it just never ends. Now the Arizona state attorney general, this Democrat out there, is bringing charges. I hope they understand how serious I am, that I'm going to be, through the Article 3 project, advocating very strongly for the Trump 47 Justice Department to open a criminal probe on their obvious criminal conspiracy to violate rights, which is a very serious federal crime with very severe prison sentences and fines, and they certainly should think long and hard about continuing what they do based upon this statute.
Well, we hope that we see that day, and we're all going to work very hard to get President Trump reelected and get you as head of the DOJ to pursue all of this. But it also gives the communists more incentive to rig this election and try to convict and imprison Donald Trump, because they know that if the two of you get back into to power, that there is going to be hell to pay for all of their crimes. Human justice is imperfect because human beings are imperfect, Mike, but God's justice is perfect. So in the meantime, we got to work on the human justice part, and you are doing extraordinary work at the Article 3 Project. Everybody, please go check them out, article3project.org. Support them however you can. They are really on the front lines of trying to keep our Constitution and the rule of law intact against this grotesque communist assault. On X, Mike Davis is at MRDDMIA, and please go follow him there as well. Mike, I want to thank you so much for your time today. I know you're getting inside the Supreme Court today. We appreciate you covering all of these cases for us and for everybody else. God bless.
Thank you.
Okay, guys, that is going to do it for me today. What a big show, right?